we are kicking off a return to the 28 insert time frame later series. It's a return that people have waited 18 years since 28 weeks, 23 years since the original 28 days. Mr. Boyle, to you first, why was now the right time to get into 28 years later?
It was, well, we kind of did when we did the original film, it was, when you make films, it doesn't matter whether they're successful or not, they all fade gradually, as they should. They take their place in people's memories or not, people forget them or just remember them with affection or whatever. But some of them occasionally stick. And they're kind of like the first one, it just seemed to resonate with people still. And people used to put on screenings and they'd ask me to go to Q&As a bit. And I'd turn up at the Q&A and people would be kind of like, be really intense.
Have the rage matters.
Watching the film, and so Alex and I began talking about, should we do something additional to it? Should we add something to it? And we did do an original idea, which was sort of what you'd expect, really. It was like a weaponise the virus type sequel, which is sort of what you sort of think, like an agency or a government or a military or something gets the virus and weaponises it, and that kind of story. And neither of us really kind of went for it, really. And then he started talking about this much bigger idea about a bigger story that was spread over 3 films ultimately, but each film would stand independently, but there'd be a bigger tale to tell, and it would be based in a family, and that these 2 would be the origin of the family. So it's independent. So it inherits stuff from the first film. It's still the same apocalypse 28 years ago as it was for Cillian Murphy in the first film and Naomi Harris, but this is 28 years later. And we don't know what's happened to them, I'm not allowed to tell you, but these 2 are more than worthy standards.
Yeah, before we get into Jamie and Isla, I want to ask you both, Jodie and Aaron, your relationship with the 28 Later franchise. What was your introduction to these movies?
I mean, I feel like I was quite relatively young when it originally came out, so I don't remember exactly where I was when I saw it, but I always remember how it made me feel. For something to be so original and so heightened and have this element of terror and fear, but ultimately be about human connection and really character focused and incredibly intimate at times, like that really struck me, to see our kind of society and London like visually in that way. I'd never seen that before, and yeah, I mean, to work with Danny and Alex was the most incredible opportunity. So yeah, I always remember how it made me feel. I felt like I'd never seen anything like it before.
Yeah, I had the same reaction. I remember, at the time it was a very iconic filmmaking, and Cillian walking through the streets of London was such a visual, had such a visual impact on me. I was probably about 11 or 12 at the time when that came out, so. But which was kind of interesting to bring that into this movie because both Isla and Jamie were teenagers at the time this event happened. So it's kind of beautiful to be able to kind of have instill this beautiful this movie that about the rage virus and how we're now living in that post-apocalyptic world and how that informs the adult self. So we've got carrying that sort of trauma into this. It was so interesting to have that film.
Yeah, both Jamie and Isla, most of their lives, they've known as the rage virus world. Obviously, Isla, sticking with you, Jodie, she's sick in this movie. We don't know why, but she's bedridden, and she's not seemingly getting any better. But there was a time at some point in the past 28 years where she had happiness, because Spike is only 12 years old. Spike was born in the middle of this world. What can you tell me about kind of filling in that backstory for Isla? Has it always been doom and gloom, or was there a sliver of hope in this post-apocalyptic world at one point?
Oh my god, I think there was so much hope, and I think as you get to know her as the film progresses, you really get to see her true essence, and the relationship that she has with Spike is really quite beautiful and has its uniqueness. We had like 2 weeks rehearsals before we started, which was amazing because me and Aaron got in the room with Alfie Williams, who plays Spike, who's incredible, and we got to kind of go through every scene and plot it out. And what I kind of felt about Isla was that I felt like she kind of maybe had a relationship with the island beforehand, like maybe it was her dad had taken her over there.
It's in the name.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's part of her. So I felt like she was kind of actually very familiar and at home in that place, but then now because of the condition she's in, she kind of actually very rarely goes outside and is, you know, very much kind of insular. But yeah, that was what we kind of thought.
Mm-hmm. And Aaron, from what we've seen from Jamie so far, I think it's fair to call him pretty morally gray. He's got that moment with Spike when he's telling him just, you know, kill it, the one that's hanging upside down, and he wants him to become that hardened man in this post-apocalyptic world. You're no stranger to these morally gray characters. I think of Craven, I think of Tangerine from Bullet Train. What attracts you to these characters with, you know, they're not just on the surface level, black and white, they got layers?
Yeah, well, I think I'm always drawn to a more complex character, but I think, you know, he is a product, Jamie is a product of this new world, right? You know, he's had to adapt, change, and survive. And I think, so it's an interesting one, the moral grey area. We're talking about this sort of actually what's kept them alive for so long. So it's a system that the community have come together and figured out that really works for them. And now he's trying to install that in his child, his son, and teach him the way of life to continue this new way of life. And so, you know, it's interesting because it's the purity of that child that is coming into the world with curiosity and innocence, and like you said, never knew anything different. But we, as parents, are carrying the trauma of our childhood and projecting that onto him. So it's such a beautiful journey beyond what you guys have seen. That, but it comes with complexities, and I love that because it was so human to me, and there was flaws that come with that character specifically, and so yeah.
The arc is so good, and that's all I can say right now. Danny, I want to talk about how you brought this film to life, because the original 28 Days Later, over 20 years ago, it was kind of revolutionary when it came to cameras. You got to use the Canon XL1, one of the first feature films in Hollywood to use a camera like that. Obviously, it influenced the next couple of decades of cinema. This time around, get this, guys, iPhone Pro 15 Max. You shot a lot of this movie on iPhone. Can you talk to me about how that was able to get put together?
Well, there's lots of cameras used in it, but yeah, we use the iPhone a lot in it as well. But it's shot in a widescreen format, so because the phones and cameras generally are, the sophistication of them now is so much greater than it was before, that you can take these huge risks with it. And we shoot this film in what's called a 276 format, which is a very widescreen format. Because we wanted you to see the spread of nature in this world, and these characters isolated within it, because it gives you a great sense of isolation and space, and then isolation. And then we used you saw some glimpses of a kind of technique in it that there's a lot more of in the rest of the film that you'll see. And there's some pictures out showing all these iPhones lined up in like 20 iPhones in it.
It was like a belt almost, right?
Yeah, and there are a couple of shots that use that later that are really, I don't normally say this, but they're really cool. And they're very violent, so they're not allowed on YouTube or anything like that. So you will only see them in the cinema, so you'll have to come back to the cinema to see them later. But it was a wonderful, because yeah, like you said, we'd use these other cameras on. It was wonderful to try and bring a technique to the filming, and that's one of the wonderful things about apocalypse movies, is you've got that, it gives you that freedom, because the kind of all bets are off, really. You know, they're just like, well, what are you going to do? How are you going to survive? How is the virus going to survive? Is that going to change? Because it won't just die, like the authorities think, oh, we'll just let it go. It mutates and changes for it to survive. How do these people survive? How does their son survive when I shouldn't give anything away, but what happens to him when he gets out there? You know, those are the questions that it's asked. So it's wonderful to be able to reflect that in as fresh a way as possible. Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned how the real world would react to something like this. People think we'll just go away. We had a global pandemic. We went through a time of isolation where we didn't know when it was going to end. How did you pull any experiences from what you guys went through in COVID? Over 2020, 2021, to kind of insert into this performance. What that isolation feels like. Aaron, we can start with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it informs so much. I think my father, I have children, and my youngest is 13, same age as Alfie was when we were making this movie. I know what it was like to protect your family and but also understand what was happening around us, and it was, you had to adapt and change, and it was very heightened sort of time. So there was so much that, and I thought what was really interesting when I was reading this, that an audience is going to understand just that sort of journey through into, I always think what's pre-pandemic and what's post-pandemic. I sort of remember things before and after. And I'm sure there's a lot of children that were born, post-pandemic, and that's sort of like, that's how it is. But yeah, drew upon a lot of those sort of scenarios, and felt like the characters that we were building in this community felt like communities that were sort of breaking up and things like that. So there was a lot that kind of you drew upon, and I think we do that naturally, trying to find characters.
I guess as well how much you in that time valued and appreciated nature. There's something that I realised when I watched the movie was like, you have so many amazing shots in this film that like the nature carries on. She strives without us, and there's clips where you see it's like an Eden, and she's thriving, and it's that was quite beautiful and quite a revelation to see actually. How you depicted that, because it's so true. Like, she doesn't really need us for much, but we rely on her for so much. So that was something that really struck me as well.
Yeah. We've seen 28 minutes. We got about an hour and a half to go. For audiences, when they check this out in full on June 20th, what can you tease, if anything at all?
Oh my God. Yeah. It doesn't go where you think it's going to go. That's really important, and that was really important for us as filmmakers. I think for all of us, it's what attracted this calibre of actor to it, and what, like Alex and I were determined to do, was to try and surprise people. And that's why, it's like Sony won't show the whole film yet, because they want it to be revealed as late as possible for the pleasure of the storytelling. And it is really interesting, the storytelling element of it. It isn't what you think. The military do turn up, but again, it's not at all what you think what happens with the military. They don't weaponize the virus. That doesn't happen. So I'd love you to come and see the whole thing. It's we made it for you, especially for the fans, because it's the fans that sustain it. People who write to you, and you see them outside screenings of other things, and they ask you, is there any other news on the sequel to 28 Days Later and stuff like that. And it really matters in the end. So thank you for being here, and I hope you can come again.
Guys, it's so good. It's so good.
I will say, before I turn it over to Jodie and Aaron, this film has already won awards. 3 Golden Trailer Awards for the trailer that debuted in December. It was the #1 trending video on YouTube, 10 million views in the first 48 hours, and already won 3 Golden Trailer Awards. And that's before it's even released. So, Jodie and Aaron, what can you guys tease, if anything at all?
I don't want to get in trouble.
Maybe pack a tissue, I don't know.
Oh.
Aaron, I can't say much about Jamie, so that's why I turned it over to you.
No, I'm gonna leave it with Danny. What he like, I think it's the best.
There's a guy in it. So if these guys aren't enough, there's a guy in it at the end called Jack O'Connell. I don't know whether you saw Sinners. Did you see Sinners? It's a fantastic film. So he's the chief vampire in Sinners, and Jack kind of is right at the end.
He's in the film.
He's right at the
He's in the
end. Yeah, and I wanted to apologise as well on behalf of you if you were Teletubbies fans. When you were growing up, because of the way we treat them, it's like, and they come back anyway. There's more Teletubbies to be had.